We told you that we'll be having a love doctor in the house. And we have Kolade Stephen, Coach K, with us. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. It's as usual, it's nice to be here.
Yeah, and always beautiful to talk about love, because love makes the world go round. But it's interesting what you want to talk to us about today, the adaptable lover. The first question that comes to my mind is, really, what is adaptable? Like, what are you adapting to in love?
Yeah.
I knew this question was gonna be a starting point and a springboard. So I thought, what's the right quote to caption this first response with? And so I decided to read from one of the popular quotes of Charles Darwin, and he says the most important factor in survival is not intelligence or strength, but our adaptability. So the same thing plays out in relationships with lovers and people. And when you are asking what are you adapting to, what exactly is the idea behind it, it means that I want to come into a love relationship, I want to be in a marriage where I consistently am feeling that my lover, my partner, my spouse literally understands me. In coaching, there's something we do, call it a hack, and most of the time probably when I'm in sessions and I find out that I have to deal with a group of people where communication is a challenge, there is an exercise I do, we call it mirroring, and it's something we do in our practice and we do with a lot of persons. And what does mirroring entail? It's a simple thing. Number one, nobody hates their image in front of a mirror.
Nobody what?
Nobody hates the way they look when they stand in front of a mirror.
Okay.
Just like every time you take a selfie, you look for the best angle of yourself and you snap, yeah? So that's primarily what I make you do in that session. I make you learn to find the best angle, snap that picture, and soak it in. Then the next thing I get you to do, and whatever happens after this, I'm not responsible for. So what I get...
You have to take responsibility.
Because it's you.
You are the love doctor here, and we believe our doctors.
I'm giving tips on how to best win arguments, how to best not to lose arguments, how to best to get the best of the person when you're communicating. So what we do with mirroring is basically very simple. If I'm talking to you and hypothetically even at the workplace, what I tell you to do, it's simple. Become the mirror of the next person you're conversing with. And what does that mean? That means if they talk and they're very raspy and fast, pace your tone even if you're not like that. So whatever body language they assume, if you're talking to them, learn to assume the same body language.
So where's the place of opposite attract in that? Because most times they tell you that when the person you're talking to is brash or the person you're married to is brash, you want to take a calmer disposition so that you can neutralize all of the harshness or the hot temper coming from that other person. That's
a very good observation, but my real question is how effective is that really in real life?
You're the professional.
No, but I'm telling you, because the reality is that in real life really doesn't work. And I'll tell you why I tell you to mirror, because when you become the person to the person, everybody likes themselves. So we speak about the place of the human consciousness and the human subconscious.
Are there exceptions? Because I quite agree with Bolanle. Like, how if she's yelling at me and I'm yelling back, at the end of the day, we don't even hear each other. Progress.
So my conversation is that you would have come from the place where the conversation has not got to a yelling part or the yelling beat. Because I don't expect that your spouse is yelling in the house and you're yelling back. But I'm saying that, how do you, for example, if you're working with someone and most of the time you seem to be at loggerheads, one of the best things to do, and even for example, one of the tips I give is every time you are on a call, especially when you're on a phone call, and the person at the other side is yelling and shouting and screaming, the simple tip to calm them down is very simple, and you can test it and try me. If it doesn't work, money back guarantee. Just hold the mouthpiece of the phone and breathe evenly, as soft as you can. What will happen in space of 60-90 seconds is the person at the other end of the line will calm down, they'll stop shouting.
Okay, so you're not saying anything at that point, right?
No, you're not.
So it's neutralizing.
I'm talking about over the phone. Okay. But I'm saying what happens before we get to the place where the person begins to yell is this. There are times when you keep on telling things to your spouse or the person you're in love with, and the person doesn't seem to want to hear you. So I sort of went out of context when I was talking about that. But what I'm talking about is, if you understand the name, there is a model I really want to share. It's called the FAN model. It's called the FAN model. And in the FAN model, it talks about you being flexible. It talks about you being adaptable. It talks about you being nimble.
Okay.
So if you understand these three things, then it becomes easy. And I'll give you a classic example. Papa and Kichi and Mama and Kichi are in the house. And when she got, like you said, when you fell in love with them, it is the concept of opposites attracts. Then you begin to live together, and you find out it's like opposite is shuki in everybody. Then you are forced at this point to want to say, so what do I do? So what you now begin to do at that point is this. What are the flexible things you can do to work? Because number one thing about life is there's no one size fits all. There are no two circumstances that are unique, and then no two marriages are the same thing. They're like fingerprints.
Absolutely.
So the idea is that for everything that your lover brings in, you definitely must find a board where there is a bit of compromise, and which is where I speak to, which is that you find that place of compromise where what you do is tempering the anger or whatever issues, as it were, so that, because the ultimate idea is to get the best out of your relationship. It's one of two things. It's either you're willing to fix the marriage, or the latter, which is to get out. And okay, I'll share a real life instance that I was privy to recently. So I have a client who came and says, "Oh, I've been married to my husband in the last decade." And the conversation has been around. Every time I talk to him, it's either he's telling me that I'm disrespectful because I'm a lady, or that I don't have a voice, even though I'm the one that's the primary sponsor of the entire marriage. The man rarely ever pitches in, rarely even pays the school fees, and even when he does, there's really nowhere. She has to run a business, she has to cater for the kids, she has to come home and cook, and when she runs into the shop, she says, "Coach, it's even so bad that even when I'm making dinner for the family and the kids are back to them with the school assignment, he says my husband can't even help." And I'm like, "Have you tried talking?" She says, "Every time I try to talk, he slaps me, he beats me, and all of that." At that point, do you tell them to be flexible? No. The first thing you do is watch out for your life. Get out first. If your husband has a problem, then let him fix himself. Then you can be talking about resolving the marriage from a distance. Now you are at a place that is safe.
Okay, let's talk about the adaptable lover, because of course that's the focus for today. I'd like to know what characters the adaptable lover should possess.
So one of them I mentioned when I spoke about the concept of being flexible. So the first thing about the flexible lover, or the man or woman who's a flexible lover, is that you first understand that the person you are dating or you are with, first rule of thumb, is not like you. So that person has lived life with a certain perception that is learned. It's like a computer program. So when you say Control-Alt, Control-S, if it's Apple, it will save. If you say Command-S for a MacBook, it will save. So people naturally will behave and respond to you from their subconscious. So the subconscious is what we call your programming that's in a laptop. So when you give certain commands, it will respond. So that's why when you date certain people, there are certain things that you say that are proclivities to them. And there are certain things that you say that you will not expect that are triggers to them. And one of the recent conversations I've been broaching recently in the last month, has been the concept of gaslighting. And I have to tell people that when it comes to the idea of gaslighting, you must be honest enough to know that this person didn't have your upbringing. This person didn't go through with your parents. This person didn't see the world view from yours. So for you to be flexible enough as a lover, the first thing is accept that this person is not me. So when you accept this person is not me, then it's a good start. And the second rule of thumb that the flexible lover must know is this. Understand that in every relationship, what you don't know is always more than what you know. And I say that carefully. What you don't know is always more.
Generally in life or about
generally
your lover?
In love, but I'm saying in the context of your lover.
Okay.
What you don't know is more than what you
Even
think
if
you
you've dated for donkey years.
even if you've been married for a decade of years.
You mean things you do not know about your partner?
Yes. And I'll give you.
But why is it difficult for people to come to terms with that?
Because all of us come into relationship with a certain expectation. We create that picture, and we now use that picture as a filter for the next person. So we all come with our expectations in hand, and we now use that as a tray. And say, okay, force this food to you and say, eat it, eat it, eat it, even though it's not exactly what you like to eat. For example, I like to make the joke that one of the reasons why my son has a big head, and I like to jokingly say it, is because his mother ate yam all through. That was the only thing she could sink in all through the trimester. And now, at that time in my life, and even till date, I really don't enjoy to eat yam. And if I tell people that I like pounded yam, I like fried yam, they don't get it. But do I prefer cooked yam? No. So when did it become for me? It started out for me as a secondary school student while I was in boarding house. So what happened? What was my first experience? Or we call it your metrics of learning at that point. It was that I was in a situation where I was in boarding house, and every time they served yam on the menu, I luckily always got the part of yam that was not boiled or well cooked.
Oh, wow. So you formed a kind of traumatic experience for you.
So anytime I see yam, that's the picture I have in my head.
Okay, so quickly, before we run out of time, you've talked about the fact that you should believe that what you don't know is more than what you know.
Yeah.
What are the other factors or the other traits?
Okay, then, of course, I spoke about being adaptable and nimble. Being adaptable, of course, is as simple as it sounds. Learn to be the chameleon. Be the chameleon not in the negative to take advantage of the next person, but to be the chameleon such that you can begin to be an empath and walk in the right shoe of the man or the woman that you are with. What does the chameleon do? When it comes into a certain place, it morphs into the color of the place. Yeah. And when you understand that you as a human have the same capacity to morph into the next person, you find out what two things. Number one, you are able to see the other person's point of view. Then, of course, the other thing that you find out that will happen to you is that you find out that the other person is a bit more willing to want to talk to you about certain things. So that means that even in a strained relationship where you guys are not talking, then begin to be as adaptable to what the person is. Look at the fine print, look at the details, and begin to let it matter to you. Not that you don't necessarily have to like it, you just need to learn to pick an interest. I have dated people who like football, who are women. I can't give a bloody donut about who plays who. I don't care. But
Sounds like you've had many of them. They say you've dated people.
Oh yes, I have.
Don't mind me.
You are calling me out on live TV. It's okay. God will judge you, but it's okay.
I apologize. Just before we round off, yeah, you everything you said now kind of makes sense
because Uche, I'm looking at the fact that this would not work only for romantic relationships, even in friendships.
Yes, friendship,
but then
work
question,
relationships.
Where I was going with this question is, how we live in a woke generation. Like before you get to the point where your partner must be willing also to have these conversations and take this walk with you. But how do you even know that the person you are with is in the right frame of mind to go through these steps? You're not dating somebody who is keeping you there for just their own selfish. I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from. You might just be dating yourself and you think you're in a
dating with somebody. No, trust me, I've read all kinds of things, and I like the fact that you're speaking to the context because, of course, there is a huge generational shift, and more, this is the generation of people who are becoming less and less and less patient. But one thing I know about dating and relationship is this, and so that you get to a place where you find out that you're not dating yourself while you think you're in a relation or you are in a situationship, or nothing beats the place of learning to talk. By design, by psychology, the average woman by design is designed to be intuitive. So I tell people all the time when he says, "Oh, he broke my heart, he used me," I'm like, nope. You knew from the first day he asked you out intuitively whether I was going to stay or not. The question is, how many times do you listen to that part of you that drives you? And when I said I like to use this example so that people know how powerful we are as human, there is no place in the world where you will see a natural disaster happen. And this is the strange thing. Weeks or week before that disaster happened, all the wildlife there have migrated.
Wow.
So the only animals you will find in a natural disaster are literally just pets. So that means animals themselves are into it. They are into it by design. So how much more woman? How much more human rather? How much more people? So when you talk about that, so because we have a generation of people who are more less and less patient, then number one, learn to be intuitive. Trust your intuition. Then number two, always learn to talk, because I can't be in a relationship with you because you took me out on a date, or because maybe the sex was great, or maybe because we just seem to get each other. We must learn to talk. And I think that if you also now do like a generational analysis and you look at our parents and us, you find out that why was the prevalence of divorce minimal at the time than now? Then let me also shock you. I was talking to someone recently and I said, the white man comes and gives us this, and they say from colonization, and they say this will work, that will work, that will work. And I said, but this is the truth about the African community, and I've checked across all cultures, and it's the same. In the African community, by original design, is designed to take care of its woman. That's why if you go back in the tradition, when a woman loses a partner in the olden days, way back, what happens? They pick the woman and they give her to the younger brother or the elder brother who has a wife, and they say, well, yeah, join the wife. Why? Because the community is thinking about the care of the woman. Go and look at the design, whether it's the north, the east, the west, and the south. Each design is natural. And then when you understand this, you find out that we have a system where we're coming from. But the question is, where did it all go wrong? Right? And then in the name of wokeness, even though there's the big argument that people are saying that more and more, they believe that in another few years, more and more people will not marry. Scarily so, I agree, that we are building a generation of children who will challenge even the concept of marriage as long as they can make children.
And I think that's a good place to leave it, because you're already delving into another body of thought, which of course might take the whole day and we don't have all the time, but it's been good having you on the show. I picked especially the part where you said there's a lot you don't know about your partner, and you need to keep learning. You need to be adaptable, and then you also have to follow your intuition. It's been a very great time with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Kolade Stephen, the love doctor. All right, we'll take a break now. We will be back to delve into other conversations. Stay with us.